It was summer holiday, and Emeka had decided that his children will be going for holiday in his village. So the wife and Emeka had planned to take their children home. But on a second thought, the wife said because of the kind of new job she just got, it would be difficult for her to stay with the children. So Emeka decided to go home with the children instead. And being there with the parents, it was really a beautiful holiday where the children needed to see all that was happening in the community where they came from. And the wife stayed back. And then one night, the wife had called Emeka to find out how the kids were doing. And Emeka said the kids were doing well. So one thing led to the other. Emeka decided to take a walk to just see what was going on in the community. On reaching the village square, it was in the evening, so in their village they usually have this sit out where people play this draft. They call it insa in my community, but in English they call it draft. So while they were playing the draft, Emeka had met some of his friends and they got talking. They were hailing him. Emeka, it's been a while. That they like the fact that he came back with his family to see how the community is, and Emeka was nodding and was happy about it. So when Emeka sat there, he now just sat with his friends, thinking it was just a normal thing. He sat with his friends and they began to play the draft. He was even sharing them on, and later they said they should go into a competition. They were there having the competition when Emeka started feeling very faint, and then he asked that they should give him water. And somebody brought water casually and gave Emeka. Emeka drank the water. The next thing Emeka heard was he heard people shouting. To him, he was unconscious, but he could hear voices. People were shouting at around the area. And Emeka had passed out, but he could hear some voices of people shouting, but he didn't understand what was going on. And then they tried to rush Emeka to the hospital. The hospital is like a 30 minutes drive from their community. So they looked for a vehicle and put Emeka, because after Emeka had come to the village, he didn't come with the vehicle, being that he was not staying in the country. So they brought from the airport, they got a vehicle to bring them. So before they could call the driver who is supposed to bring Emeka from, because the driver was the one that brought them from the city down to the village to see his parents. So before the driver could come, Emeka's leg started swelling. So they had to put him on a bike, try to drive him that evening to the nearby hospital. When they got there, they didn't have the basic amenities to take care of Emeka. So they had to take him to another nearby place, which was very close to Port Harcourt. On getting there, they didn't have the equipment to treat Emeka. This was looking like film, according to the explanation they gave. So the next thing, they took Emeka straight to Port Harcourt. And on reaching there, they found out that the medical director was not around, but there was somebody on call, and they started attending to Emeka. But they asked for money, and they explained the situation why they don't even have the money to pay. But as God will have it, the person who was there on call decided to start administering treatment on Emeka, and that was how Emeka's leg began to swell. When the wife discovered that she has been calling Emeka and Emeka was not picking, she decided to call the guy who took them, the Uber guy who picked them from the airport. And the Uber guy said no, that he is not aware of anything, but let him go to the village to check. On reaching there, Emeka was not found. So the parents were even looking for him. Then at that time, the people who took Emeka had not come back to tell the parents what had happened. So those who were at that place where they were playing the draft had not even gone to Emeka's family to let them know what was going on. That was how Emeka's the Uber guy now spoke to Emeka's parents and said the wife has been trying to reach him and she's not able to reach him, and that was why she had to call Emeka. So the father now went into the house and picked up his phone and saw that they had gotten a lot of missed calls, and the missed calls were coming from Emeka's wife. So they began to ask questions, and then one little boy who was at the village square came back and told the parents that this was what happened, began to explain everything. The father was just quiet because he didn't know how to react. His children were crying. They were thinking something had happened to Emeka, and then they started shouting that they wanted to go back. So he now immediately, the Uber guy now called Emeka's wife. And when he called Emeka's wife, the call was on voicemail. He dropped a voice note. And then about an hour later, it happened that the driver was still at Emeka's residence. And that was how the lady returned the call, spoke with her children and told them to remain calm. And then she found out what was happening. They told her everything that was happening. So she now asked that do they know the little boy who brought that news? And the mother said yes, that she knows the boy. The mother to Emeka said she knows where the boy is from. And then they went to the boy's place, and he said they took him to the hospital, but they don't know which hospital they took him to. So when they went back to the village square, those who were there now said the people who took him to the hospital are not back. And that was where the confusion started. They are not back because, of course, when they took him to that place, they didn't have the equipment. They had to cross to Port Harcourt. So when they got there, they started treating Emeka. Emeka now started regaining consciousness, and they asked him questions. He couldn't really respond well because he was already not himself. So Emeka's phone that was in his pocket had run down. They had to charge the phone and then give Emeka the phone to find the number. So he couldn't still, get himself. So he was able to point out what they should do. The nurse on call picked the number and called the wife. So the wife was now very happy to receive a call from the husband, and they began to talk. What will pain you, what will make you feel very pain, that what will really grieve you is how Emeka, while he was going through all of that, somebody was trying to take advantage of his daughter who came on holiday because Emeka was not there. So all of those things were happening, and then Emeka spoke to the wife, and the wife was asking how he was doing. They did a video call on WhatsApp. He showed the wife the leg, and the wife was like, they have to start coming back. They have to start coming back to the US. So Emeka was like, he has to get better before he would think of coming back. So all of those things happened. Emeka was not himself. The children were not happy. So immediately the man was with Emeka down there. The wife had to send money through somebody that sent the money through an app to the guy, a changing app, converting the money to the guy, so that the guy who is with him will be able to sort out everything. That was how the wife now called the Uber guy and told the Uber guy where the husband was, the hospital name, and no. The Uber guy drove down there. The father came, Emeka's father came with the Uber guy, drove down there and saw Emeka. And after everything, they returned back to their village. Emeka was discharged, even though he was not feeling too well. But the parent had asked that Emeka should go back to the US immediately so that he can be taken care of. But because at that period, Emeka was incapacitated, he would not be able to fend carrying his children plus himself. So they now decided the wife now called the hospital she knew, and they did all the papers and wrote that the man will not be able to travel on his own. Then they tried to get a visiting visa for the Uber guy. They asked what's their relationship. They said they were not related, but there is a guy that runs errands with them. They said they need to prove that the guy, they've had contact with the guy. They have started printing call logs that they've done with the guy in the past. Whenever they have any transaction, it's the boy they send. So they have to have a family tie or relationship that they've known the guy, and the guy is going to come back. So they did everything. They gave the guy a 6 months visa, visiting visa. Being that Emeka was not feeling well, he had to fly Emeka with the guy and the children back to the US. And that was how the guy went there, stayed with them for like 2 months, running around till Emeka became very okay. And while the guy was there, the wife has suggested to Emeka that they should try to look for a way for the Uber guy to stay in America, but he needs to come back. So they sent the guy to come back after the 2 months. He came back to Nigeria, and then they now applied again for him to go back. They did not stay there to change his visa because they felt that it was going to be risky. They did everything. The lady, the Uber guy was driving her car, was already, very upset. Why would the guy leave and not without, proper arrangement, that living like that, because the guy thought he would go for like a week, but when he got there and saw that it was not something he would be able to leave the lady and Emeka alone, he decided to stay back. The woman was upset, but what the woman didn't know is while the driver was returning, he was not going back to his job. They just wanted him to come back and then apply for a stay. And then what they did was they asked the guy what was his qualification, and he said he had done his first degree. He just needed to do a master's. Guess what? He did computer science, and that was how they got him master's for data analysis, and the guy left Nigeria. The story in all of this I have learned is that in everything you are doing, no matter who you meet, treat them well. Imagine if that Uber guy, they maltreated him and they were always rude to him. You see the services he rendered, the way he ran around, did everything for them. That was the only contact point to Emeka's father and the wife and Emeka. But at the end of the day, being good pays. Emeka was a good person.